Fine, good morning. Very nice to be here. So, this is a conference on defense. My experience is that actually the best form of defense is to stop them doing it in the first place. If we can actually defeat the bad guys at the front door, then we stand a much better chance. So I'm going to tell you stuff you probably should already know. If you haven't seen the headline from 2016, yes, 123456 is still the most common password. Number 2, 12345678. Hacking, phishing, social engineering are simple. The bad guys are winning. Running malicious code is pretty trivial. Getting only one person, it only needs one person inside the organization to run the malicious code, and ultimately it's all about the money. So currently, if you haven't seen the figure, credit card fraud is running at about $35 billion a year. And ultimately what credit card fraud is the ability to persuade someone that you are the card. The card is yours. It's identity theft. At the end of the day, it's an identity failing that causes it. Now, we all know it's broken. Yeah, it's the industry's dirty little secret. Yeah, it's a 1960s computer mainframe model of identity. The computer is God. If you're lucky enough, you get an account on the computer, and then you get lots of access. Yes, we've made it distributed, but ultimately, it all boils down to that 1960s mainframe technology. And this forms what you call an identity 2 mindset. We've got a bunch of disparate computers, we need to join them together. So we're going to federate them, we're going to do SAML, we're going to do whatever. Oh, we need to do some privacy, so we better invent UMA. Anyone using UMA? Anyone got it to work yet? This results in what we call a locus of control problem. And the locus of control problem is really simple. It goes along the lines of, I'm a security professional. And if you give it all to me in my identity system, and I can put my arms around it, I can make it all work for you. And as a result, what we've ended up with is, I can make it all work for you if you come and play in Google's ecosystem, or Apple's ecosystem, or Microsoft's ecosystem, or Beidou's ecosystem if you're in China. And of course, if you're inside a corporation, let's shove it all inside my Active Directory, because then I can make it all work. And woe betide if you actually want to communicate outside of those individual locuses of control. And so we get into things like federation. And federation is an n factorial problem. You can make it work at about n equals 3. Any more than that, it just fails miserably. And what this results in is multiple disparate unconnected accounts. Who here has over 200 accounts? Yeah, you should all have your hands up. You all do, you just don't realize it. Yeah, I've got 3 sheets of A4 for my 70-year-old mother-in-law with all the things that she has to know to do with computers and the accounts that go with it. It's crazy. She doesn't even do online banking. And we all know it's broken. It's too complex. The one thing I have learned about doing security for the last 30 years is if it's simple, it stands a chance of working. If it's complex, you don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. This is from some stuff that was done around NSTIC. Everyone know what NSTIC is? It's the US government's National Strategy for Trusted Identity in Cyberspace. This was some stuff that was done. I'm not going to comment on how good, bad, or indifferent this is, but look at it. Is it going to work? This is from an NSTIC paper. To make this federated environment work, you need all of these things. And the same paper goes on to say, actually, the issues are user correlation, risk and liability, chains of trust, third-party proofing, and verification issues. We're not going to make it work as we currently do what I'd like to call identity 2. So my favorite quote is, let's just keep doing it the same way we do it. Yeah, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We haven't learnt. So, some background to what we think is the way forward. So, where does the work originate from? Yeah, originally out of the Jericho Forum and Open Group. Jericho is the guys who brought you deperimeterization. originally, 10, 15 years back. This is a bit of work we did on a thing called identity commandments. What's broken? What are the fundamentals? What are we doing wrong, and how do we fix it? It fed into, for those of you who do cloud, the Cloud Security Alliance Guidelines version 3. Most of domain 12 was done by a team working on this, and then into the consolidated paper, white paper out of us. So I'm going to rush very quickly because there's about 3-4 years of research here to cram into 20 minutes. So trust me, 3 key tenets of identity should be really important for you, me, and everyone else in this room. Am I privacy, primacy, and agency? Privacy, am I able to keep my personal information private? Primacy, can I control who has my personal information? And agency is, can I control what you do with my personal information? And you should really care about those 3 tenets. And if you take nothing else away from this talk, this should be it. Here's the gotcha. And it took me about 6 months to get my head around this one properly. Only 100% anonymity at the root of an entity's identity will solve those problems. Yeah, I'll debate it over a beer tonight if you want to debate it, but just bear with me for 2 seconds and trust me for a second. It solves all the problems that we have. It puts the individual entity in control. It decentralizes the identity ecosystem, so you don't need someone managing 350 million Americans in one government ecosystem, because that will be the biggest target on earth for the hackers. It minimizes the attack surface. The attack surface is now 7 billion people. It solves problems like anonymous e-voting, really important if we're going to get 18-year-olds voting again. It solves the locus of control issue. There is no locus of control. It's totally distributed. And this is the important one of those acid tests. Governments can accept each other's digital identities. And this is what we went out and did some research back end of last year. This is what the people want. Who should be in control of your personally identifiable information? 86% said, I should. Who should control how it's used? 85% said, I should. I'm sure probably you'd all agree with that. Unfortunately, the US and the UK government think it's a commercial body from a list approved by the government is the answer you should be selecting. That's what they're putting in place for you right now, whether it's UK or US governments. Slightly different approaches. So the next one, any identity ecosystem must encompass all the identity types. We are fixated on fixing this for people. And this isn't going to work going forwards. If we're going to fix problems around identity of things, around the fact that we get malicious code into the system, the fact that actually we really care about organizations, because organizations are legally people in the eyes of the law. And of course, coming up real soon now, lots more agents, whether they're electronic agents or they're people doing things on your behalf. We have to do identity identically across all 5 entity types. And this one, sameness is the key to anonymity. Ultimately, most of you don't know me from Adam here. But humans do it with faces. Sameness is done with faces. So if you meet me in 5 years' time, you'll go, oh, I remember you. You were in Austin, weren't you, presenting? Yeah, it's sameness. I'm the same person when you first met me, will be today, and will be tomorrow. It's as simple as that. And the majority of the time, we don't actually care whether Paul Simmonds is my real name or not. It might just be an alias. Yeah, especially if you go to DEF CON. Lots of aliases at DEF CON. And ultimately, it's all about taking risks. And we talk a lot about risks in this industry, and actually we do it really, really badly. This is from CSA guidance, and it talks about making a risk-based decision about access to data and systems based on the trusted identity and attributes of all the entities and components in the transaction chain. What does that mean? It means if I'm doing an e-banking transaction, if I can understand everything about that transaction chain from the person who's actually at the end of the mobile application to what they're running on, is it rooted? Does it have any strange code running on it? Is it on secure protocols? Do I understand where it's geolocated? What level of transaction they're trying to do? I can make a better risk-based decision about whether to transact and get my losses down from 5% to 3% or 2%, or even if we do it properly, the more you understand that, 1 or 0.5%. And that's serious return on investment for banks out there. And finally, let's fix the liability problem. So I spent we did a bit of work on NSTIC, and I spent 3 days locked in a room with American lawyers. Trust me, you lose the will to live. The reality is what they were dead scared about was this liability question. If I attest that if I'm managing all these attributes on behalf of you, for which I am not authoritative, and I attest wrongly, what's going to happen? Chances are, right to life, liberty, and sue people, isn't it, in America? I'm going to get sued, especially if I'm a large company like Verizon or one of the other guys playing in the NSTIC space. So the rule is very simple. You only sign or attest for attributes for which you are authoritative. Really, really key. We need to fix the risk conundrum. We talked about that just now. The key thing here is never, ever to turn a maybe something into a binary. They definitely are. So Active Directory is the big guilty one for this. I come in with a password, a username and password into Active Directory. And what does Active Directory do to say to all those 80,000 other devices? He really is guaranteed Paul Simmonds. And that's the root cause of our problems. We've turned a variable, he's used a password, we don't know how strong it was, but it passed muster as defined by IT, and AD then says, he definitely is, go ahead, trust him as Paul Simmonds. And we do this all over the place. Who here uses secure ID cards? Yeah, for two-factor authentication. Now we do exactly the same. Yeah, the secure ID system, except we pour more trust in that because it's two-factor authentication. The fact I picked up this thing in the street and someone's written the username and secret PIN on the back of it is irrelevant because it came in via secure ID, so it's bound to be better than just username and password, isn't it? And the person taking the risk has no idea because there's this intermediate system that's turned it into a binary. And you only play your part and no more. Don't try to do anything else than the bit for which you are authoritative. So let's get on to some real examples. Let's play a game. Let's imagine how this thing would work. So here I am. First of all, I need my, remember, 100% anonymity at the root. So I need my anonymous root. So as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm British. Yeah? So the post office. Now, the reason the post office is the post office in the UK, the postmasters there are vetted by the spooks. So every postmaster in the UK has actually been through a vetting process. So I walk into the post office, and I'm in America, so I've got a $20 note. Yeah, so I pay my $20 to the postmaster, and the postmaster says, certainly, sir, you want an anonymous form of your root. What would you like? I've got 5 in my safe, so I'll get them out. Here are the models you can choose from. That's good, isn't it? I like that. There we go. So I've got 5 models you can choose from. Anyone using one of these things? This is called a YubiKey. This is the first one here. Yeah, this is a FIDO-compliant device for those into FIDO. Absolutely brilliant. Plug it in, authenticate bits and pieces, and all you need to do is press the button. So, you want to be me? Access my email? Here we are. You're now me. Thank you. So, I've got these 5 devices, and the bottom 3 are compliant for border entry. They've been signed off by the spooks. The other 2 aren't, because the key thing here is what we call immutable linkage. Is when we express risk, do we understand how the wetware is connected to the firmware? With what degree of certainty am I connected to the device? And if I've got a YubiKey, as we've just demonstrated, Max is going to be able to impersonate me without any problems because the level of immutable linkage is 0.
The bank account's clean.
The bank account is clean, absolutely. Whereas on the right-hand side, I say I'm going to have one of these. This is a NIMNI wristband. A NIMNI wristband does a heart biorhythm biometric. So I slap it on my wrist, it does a heart biorhythm biometric, and level of immutable linkage, probably 99.99, and we can argue about how many 9s. Over a beer, preferably. So I choose my NIMNI wristband. They all work to a common standard, or should, in this nice, brave new world. They can all express the model, but not the serial number. Remember anonymity. And from the model, you can derive functionality. You can understand that this is a heart biorhythm device and put my own risk assessment on whether I want to transact with someone using that versus that. So now I've got my anonymity at the root. But obviously that's totally useless, as you've all been sort of sitting there saying, I can't do anonymity. So I'm going to get some credibility behind it. And the way we do this is really simple, is we do a digital join between me and entity organization, like my Austin capital icon. Since we're in Austin, anyway, sorry. Anyway, so we do a digital one-way join and create what we call a citizen persona. Now, this is a British citizen persona because I'm a Brit. And what it consists of is the stuff for which UK government is authoritative, which is only 5 attributes, which is date of birth, place of birth, sex at birth, name at birth, citizenship. It's only 5 attributes for which UK government is authoritative. Basically, it's what's on my birth certificate. And I wander in with my passport or my birth certificate and say, please would you give me a digital join between my device and you. Entity, organization, government, entity, person, me, gives a citizen persona. This now gives me context, and I can leverage that context for all it's worth. And they give it back to me as a cryptographic blob that only I can use, so I can now store that wherever I like. I can put it in the cloud for safekeeping. I can put it onto my phone. I can put it on my corporate laptop. I can put it onto my personal laptop. It can go on my desktop. Go wherever I need it to go, because I'm in control of it. So, let's give a real example of how this works. So here's the business requirement. Can I buy alcohol over the internet? So, I'm in America, over 21 is the legal requirement. Will I get paid? Business requirement, address not fraudulent, which is the risk reduction. So, I come along with my various attributes. And even though I'm in America, I can give you an assertion signed by British government, so that's fine, that I'm over 21. From my Visa card persona, here's the fact you're going to get paid. From my Royal Mail, here's my home address. And because they are all linked to me, we can issue those to Amazon or whoever, a triple assertion cryptographically linked that could only come from one entity because the root is common rather than individual now, such that Amazon or whoever can say, yeah, only one entity could have asserted all those. I've met my business requirements. Tick, tick, tick. Thank you very much. We'll ship him the alcohol. Simple as that. And, of course, if we're playing at authentication, sameness, and personas, that gives us context, which leads us to be able to apply rules or entitlements to it, which allows us to take good risk-based decisions. And we can enhance that context and rules with a whole bunch of other stuff. So I like normative transactional profile. That's a banking one. which basically means, does he spend this type of money normally, rather than does he always ship £6,000 to a Russian bank? So now we've got this trust, or let's leverage it for all it's worth. Let's use it left, right, and center. So here's my Google join, my Google persona. And I go into my mailbox, and because I have a bit of crypto in my device that says this is my Google persona, when I start talking to Google, it goes, I've got a match. So now I can turn the entire URL green to say, not only has it got a green padlock, but actually you have a working relationship with these people that I stored in my trust store in the ARM chip on my phone, such that I know it is guaranteed to be Google and not someone who's managed to replace the 2 O's with a couple of dodgy Chinese characters and registered the domain. I went on holiday last summer to Dubrovnik. Great place. If you've never been to Dubrovnik, thoroughly recommend it. Absolutely fantastic. They filmed Game of Thrones there. They've just filmed the latest Star Wars there. I went with TUI. TUI, for the Americans here, is the largest travel company in the world. So I went with TUI. Absolutely fantastic. I have a TUI relationship, obviously, which is my digital join between TUI, when I booked the holiday, and me, which creates my TUI persona. I got an email the other day. It said, £300 off, what could be better? Classic phishing email. But because in my crypto store, I have a persona from TUI, it goes thomson.co.uk, part of TUI, that's absolutely fine. Match, thank you very much. We turn the banner green to say, this is someone genuinely that you already interact with. We kill it stone dead. You can say, use the same trick to do it for voice, for video, DRM, crypto on the email itself. Now you've got a consistent one place to look for crypto credentials. You're golden, and we can leverage it all over the place to defeat the bad guys. Here's something slightly more complex. This is some of the, as you talk to more and more people about this, it's really interesting. So, you know, the biggest problem we've got at the moment is cars are coming. You know, I can't afford an Audi that's internet-enabled, but here's my Fiat 500. So here's my internet-enabled, an IoT device, a car that comes internet. And the biggest challenge with buying a car tomorrow is going to be, I've just paid $50,000 for this car, and it's still their car, because it's connected to them the entire time. How, when I buy it out the showroom, do I make it my car? Well, the answer is really simple. The cryptographic join between me and device, in this case a Fiat 500, is my Fiat 500. It has a unique set of crypto, its own persona that says it's Paul's car. Here's a guy, he's a worker. He works for Tesco's. Tesco's is the largest grocery company in the UK. We're going to call this person Fred. He works for them. He's a delivery driver. And the biggest business problem Tesco's have with home deliveries at the moment is everyone wants between 6 and 9 at night. And they've got this entire fleet of drivers and vans, trucks, sitting idle for most of the day. And of course, I don't want to have to wait in during that 3-hour time window they give me, because I want to go and do something more interesting. So wouldn't it be nice if we could take Fred's persona, yeah, that he's a Tesco, he's the employee persona, function delivery driver, and use it? Well, here's how we do. I go onto the Tesco's home shopping site. I order my groceries for the week, and Tesco's start preparing it. In the background, what happens is I push a security rule, invisible to me as a user. I don't have to do anything. It happens automatically. To my car. I can talk to my car because it's got crypto in it that says this is Paul's car. Paul can therefore send it security rules, which says, allow a Tesco's delivery driver who can assert that he is a Tesco's delivery driver, signed by Tesco's, access to the trunk between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the company car park. So now, Tesco's win because they get to deliver in the middle of the afternoon, which is the lax period. I pay less for my delivery because it's an off-peak time. And when I get to my car at the end of the day, my groceries are already in the trunk of my car, ready to drive home. I don't have to wait in for 3 hours in the afternoon. It just works. So in conclusion, where are we with this? Well, the answer is all the work that has been done with a lot of really clever people. I'm just the spokesman up here. But a lot of work that's been done, as I said, lots of people have been involved in. Basically, we've got the blocks. We're not inventing new stuff out here. It's just rebuilding, using the blocks differently to build a different model. So where are we? We're looking for people to get involved. We're looking for people to sanity check this, refine the business models that are out there. Does it work? Does the model work in your organization? And ultimately define the final model to actually go out and build and test. We're a global not-for-profit. Why? Very simply, it's got to be neutral and safe. We've got to have Huawei and Cisco working in the same room, building the same standards. We've got to have Google and Beidou in the same room, working to the same standards.
Cisco can't even do their own standards.
Yeah, I know, okay. Look, I'm an idealist. But if it's neutral and safe, it stands a chance. It's got to be global in nature. It's got to be cross-accepted by governments, and ultimately, there needs to be someone to hold whatever IP comes out of it, such that it is royalty-free and open source for everybody, which is what's in the charter. He says. And that's it. Don't know if I've got time for a question, or if we're... Okay. Yes.
Cryptographic link. How does revocation lost credentials work in that system?
So lost credentials are fairly straightforward. There's been a lot of work going on in it. Bottom line, if you do lose the root of your identity, the bottom line is you're stuffed and you go and get a new one. Same as you lose your Visa card and have to but there are ways around it. So there's a whole bunch of scenarios that have been worked on.
The reason I bring that up is that in the current systems that are broken for the reasons you talked about, though, when you create all those linkages, if you lose one identity, you don't destroy all the others.
Correct.
In this case, if the root dies, all of those linkages go with it.
So if the root dies, all the bits go with it. I agree with you, and as I said, that one's been solved. The key one is, because it's on a persona base, if you lose, if Tesco's goes and screws up and has a breach, then what they do is they lose the Tesco's persona, which only harms them, not me, because they're not going to get to my date of birth, my postal address, my anything else. Yes, no, yes. If it breaks, I'm screwed, but there are ways around it.